Good morning, folks. Michael here with Breath Tap. Let's talk about surrogate tapping. If you've already been skeptical of tapping, maybe you've just seen it, you've heard of it, but never actually tried it, never experienced it for yourself, it could seem very odd and unusual. And the first time you do it, it could feel awkward. I know it did for me. And that's not unusual for someone to feel that way. Or to see tapping and just kind of write it off without ever trying it because it just seems so silly or abnormal, right? But the fact is, it is based in science. There's been lots of research. There's hundreds of peer-reviewed research papers out there showing the effectiveness of it. It's really no different than acupuncture and other somatic type techniques. So with that said, when it comes to surrogate tapping, that takes it to a whole other level, right? It's a whole different ball game. Surrogate tapping will seem even weirder to you if you've never experienced it or you're new to this whole EFT thing. So surrogate tapping is where you actually tap for somebody else, but you actually put yourself in their shoes. So when we're usually tapping, we're tapping for ourselves. We're working on ourselves. We're working on an issue, right? Something like that. For surrogate tapping, you are literally putting yourself in someone else's shoes by stating out loud, I am Bob Smith, and I'm dealing with this issue. So you act as a surrogate for them. Maybe they're dealing with a health issue, a health affliction, something like that. Maybe they don't know anything about tapping. You want to help them. They could be a family member, a friend, a pet, a neighbor, it doesn't matter, but you actually stand in for them as a surrogate by tapping as if you were them. Again, might seem a little odd, and you might wonder, how in the heck could that possibly work or impact someone else? So there's some different theories around how this might work. One of them is the whole quantum field thing, right? The energy field that exists between all of us that connects all things. In quantum physics, they talk about this field, and they've done experiments to try to prove that this field exists, and with stunning results too. So they've done experiments, and I'm not a scientist or anything by any stretch of the imagination, but the way I understand it is they've done experiments where they've taken particles that are entangled, call it quantum entanglement, they're connected in some way, and they separate them by a vast distance, miles, and they stimulate this particle in some manner, and this other particle that was separated reacts in the same manner at the very same time that this one did. They both react at the same time, even though this one, is a few miles down the road. That's pretty amazing if you think about that, right? Like, they're stimulating this particle, and this one's reacting the same way as if it's being stimulated, and this one's 5 miles down the road. That's the type of stuff they've done, and that's where they've trying to prove, like, hey, there's this quantum field that connects all things. And you could even go as far as saying this is like the God energy, the source energy that connects all of us. We're all connected at subatomic levels by energy in this field, right? The HeartMath Institute has done experiments too, where they have put these sensors to measure like the electromagnetic fields of different parts of the world. And what they've seen with these sensors is that before like some sort of disaster, a major hurricane, or even before like a terrorist attack, they've actually been able to measure increases in the electromagnetic fields, like the activity has increased in the areas before, leading up to and before something has happened and occurred, right? And it's bizarre to even think about, but it's because this field, it's almost like this field and this energy exists, and just because we can't see it or measure it at that level, it might not seem real to us. But hey, science and stuff's always evolving and changing. Just think about where we've come from over the last 100 years. There's amazing discoveries to be had in the future. And so this quantum field is something I definitely believe in. It's just like when you're thinking about somebody and, maybe you're having some prolonged thoughts about somebody, and then they, all of a sudden they call you or text you or something, right? It's kind of weird. It's like you felt that energy. And then that gets into things like intuition, telepathy, and just stuff like that, right? It's almost like it's all connected with this energetic field where there could be an impact on other people, places, and things, and matter, and stuff like that. Anyway, that's one of the theories, is that when you stand in and tap for somebody, you actually, because of the intentions and because you're focusing your intention on this person and whatever issue they're dealing with, and you're standing in for them, they could have that beneficial effect from it. Maybe they don't know anything about tapping. Maybe they don't even know you're tapping for them. But there's been a lot of anecdotal feedback from people about how powerful this could be. I've personally used it on occasion. I don't do a lot, but I've used it for, I've used it for family members who've dealing with health issues, and I've even used it for my own pet. And I'll tell you what, I've seen direct, immediate results from it. So was it what I was doing, the tapping? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I can't say it for sure, but it's not hurting anything, right? Now, one other theory on this too is that regardless of the quantum field thing's real, in that the intentions are somehow energetically going to the person or the pet and impacting them in a positive way, right? That's that other theory. One of the other theories is maybe if that's not true, or we don't know if it is or not for sure, but the other theory is maybe we're just changing our perspective of that person. Maybe we're just almost shifting to a different reality, a different perspective, and how we view this other person. Maybe we start to see them in a more healthy state of being, right? Maybe our perspective or view of them actually changes, and it makes us feel better about them. And perhaps in a way that positive attitude could also impact that person, right? The way you treat them, the way you talk to them, just the energy you bring to them when you are with them. So that's the other thing, is maybe we're not really changing them, or maybe we're not impacting this so-called quantum field, but we're actually more or less changing ourselves, impacting ourselves. So that's a whole other theory about it, right? And maybe it's both. Maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe there's a lot more to it that we don't even understand, and maybe we won't for a long time. But regardless, surrogate tapping can make you feel better about someone else, and it's no different than praying for somebody, right? If you're a Christian, if you believe in God, and you believe in prayer, the power of prayer, there's a lot of evidence that just the power of prayer can be so powerful for us and the people and pets around us. It's really no different than prayer, right? It's just a other form of prayer, right? But anyway, this video is long enough, so I hope that gives you some insight on surrogate tapping, and try it out. So any of the videos that I've put out there on tapping, you could use them for surrogate tapping. Just instead of when we're saying, even though I'm dealing with this, that, and the other thing, put that person in there. Have them in your mind. Even though, you start out with, I am Bob Smith, right? Maybe it's your cousin. I am Bob. I'm Bob Smith. And even though I'm dealing with all this stress, right? Just put yourself in their position. You could use any of the videos I've put out there for surrogate tapping as well. There's nothing that much different that you have to do other than putting your intention on them and stating their name, stating who you are as the surrogate. So, all right. My voice needs some coffee, which I'm going to take a sip of, and I'm going to let you guys go. See you later.